Welcome to Shrimperscast with me, Steve Mansfield.
And me, Paul Hill. On today's show,
Shrimpers off the mark with 4 points from 6 after a draw away at Hartlepool and a comfortable win against New Boys Boston at the Hall.
Cards and Guts notch as new signing Moncur impresses off the bench.
We welcome back our man in the stands, Pip, as he reports back from pools.
I sit down with leader of Southend Council and chief headcracker Daniel Cowan to get his inside track on his experience of this summer's takeover soap opera.
And we preview another double-header weekend with Barnet away on Saturday and Daggers at home for a bank holiday derby. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shrimperscast. I'm here with Mr. Paul Hill. Paul, how are you today, my friend?
Splendid. Absolutely wonderful. Couldn't be happier. How are you, dear boy?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not bad at all. We have a bit of a development, don't we? I call it a breakthrough, actually, because since we started recording this podcast over a year ago, we've been stuck in poverty mode, and we've only had one microphone that we've had to share, and you can imagine how intimate that has got at times. We've got very close. It's the only intimacy I get actually these days, so I'm going to miss it because now we have graduated to proper professional podcast 2-mic setup. Paul, how does it feel to just have a little bit of breathing space between you and me while we record?
Well, I missed the smell of your breath, to be honest. But no, yeah, it's all right. It's looking good, isn't it? 2 mics, two new boom stands.
It's looking great, man.
I know, we're getting professional. What's going on?
We'll be a green screen next. We'll be videoing.
Oh, yeah.
Few people that sort of listen to this on YouTube out there have actually been why are you putting it on YouTube with that video? And it's like, well, because, videoing is a whole other...
That is, a whole other game, isn't it?
Exactly.
But, we're slowly getting there. As the budget increases, we'll have our own premises soon. We'll have our own little studio, won't we?
We will indeed.
Yeah, why not?
We will indeed. A real Shrimpers Towers, not just the attic in my house. Okay, so let's get on to Southend United stuff. So we went to the Hall last night, so we will talk in depth about the Boston game. We've also got Pip, a.k.a. Diversity, back on for his first guest appearance on this show.
Brilliant.
We've also got leader of Southend Council, Daniel Cowan, who was instrumental in bringing together all the different parties, all the different, here comes a work term, stakeholders, to the table to kind of get the deal over the line over the summer. So that'll be fascinating. But before we get to that, we are also we've had some surprise news, I suppose.
Yep.
There was a sign-in, came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Tell us about George Moncur.
Well, how do we sign him? I don't know. A bit of out the blue. I know there was whispers flying about on the old internet, but you don't believe everything you read, do you? But a bit of a weird one because he was instrumental as they went up, as they won League 2. Leighton Orient, yep. And he played a good number of games, 30 plus games last season as they finished 11th. And now we've got him on loan. He's only 31. 2 years ago, 2022, he was playing in the Championship. I mean, wow. Yeah. What a signing. I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining at all. Very skillful player. And we saw that last night in the way when he came off the bench. Just we saw flashes of what's to come. And I'm fairly excited about this one because, we lost Wes and we were thinking, where's that kind of creative spark going to be? Who's going to take, make these little kind of dynamic runs into the box? And I think he's our man. Yeah,
he looked really, really good last night. We were both there at the game. He was, I don't know, just really calm, I thought. He just came on. You could tell he was like a bit of a cut above. He was sort of jogging around for most of it, but always kind of close to the play, always well positioned, supporting the man on the ball. But there were a couple of things that he did, a couple of really like quality touches, dropped his shoulder, went the other way, that sort of stuff, looked quite creative. But there was one defensive contribution he made as well, which made me think, because I think he's more of an attacking type midfielder, but he actually looked quite box to box for Southend, because there was a passage of play where Boston in the second half, they took it all the way into Southend's box, and there was like a loose ball, and it was one of those sort of dangerous moments. And there he was, he'd like sprinted all the way back, got in the box, got the interception, but not just that. So usually, at this sort of, at a lot of levels, they win that ball back and then they just put it out for a corner, deal with it. He had the composure under that pressure to basically control it, turn around, get his head up, and then play an amazing pass from our 6-yard box pretty much to the halfway line, to the out ball there, and then Southend were on the attack as well. So it was real quality. And yeah, like you say, I mean, he came on 71 minutes, so he was only on for 20 minutes, and he really did look the part. He looked very good.
Unreal.
And probably, just not much evidence, but given where he's been in that history you just talked about, I mean, definitely an upgrade.
Massive. I mean, wow. I mean, that's an intent signing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Show of intent, I think is what they say, isn't it? But wow. If we have a fully fit George Wonker, wow.
And he's on a season-long loan, is that right?
Yes. I'm interested to know who's paying the wages, though, because he's got to be on quite a bit of dough, because they paid big money for him from Hull.
Yeah.
And you think, obviously they want to get him off the wage bill, I reckon.
Yeah.
Because he's a good quality player, but I'm not complaining at all. Welcome, George. Come on.
Welcome, George. So let's talk through last night's game. It was probably a comfortable win in the end. They went ahead. Southend went ahead after 2 minutes. Classic bit of centre-forward play from Cardwell.
Yeah,
absolutely bullied their, I think it was their centre-half.
Well, that's it. We just sat down, didn't we?
And then he sat their centre-half down.
He did indeed.
It was brilliant. He really bullied him, opened up his body, just slotted to the bottom right, and it was like, wow, okay. So you'd predicted that this was going to be a 4-0. Didn't quite transpire, but at that moment, we were very excited, weren't we?
It was
we were
on.
Thinking, this is
it was on.
But yeah, overall, I thought a decent performance. I thought after they got the first goal, they didn't really settle. It was a bit nervy. I thought they were giving the ball away. They weren't stringing the ball together, stringing the passes together as much as we know that they can. And there was a lot of, which I'm not against, but there was a lot of kind of keep ball at the back, knocking it about, and some of the fans kind of get a bit frustrated with that. But then I think second half, they really turned it on, and to be honest, I mean, it should have been way more, shouldn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, don't forget, Colin made a very smart save to keep it a 1-0. I thought Harry Taylor was incredible. I thought Nathan Ralph...
First half.
What a captain's performance. Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, he was everywhere, wasn't he? He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it could have been more. We could have easily run that at 3-4-0 out, really. I couldn't really see, apart from their chance that they had, I couldn't really see them scoring. I know Hazel was a bit of a handful in parts, wasn't he?
Number 9,
Number 9,
he looked good. He did look good, strong.
That's it. Mooney did his usual, just did a lot of running and a lot more sulking. I saw him giving it to the fans in the East Stand as well. And, you know what you get with him, really, don't you? So, but no, apart from that, they really didn't offer, I thought, too much of a threat. I mean, like I said in the previous podcast, no disrespect to the Boston fans, because, they travelled in numbers as well on a Tuesday night.
How many of them was there?
175, something like that.
Yeah.
A good effort from them. But, finishing 6th in the National League South, coming up via that playoff, I mean, it's going to be difficult for them. And I wish them well, but... yeah, I can't really see them.
Big jump. It wasn't a terrible showing from them. They weren't, absolute dross. It wasn't a walkover. But had Southend been a bit more clinical...
It could have been better.
Come on, Waldron, that chance. So what a great bit of play that was. So
he started the move as well.
He started the move. He dropped in into our own half, received the ball from one of the centre-backs, laid it out to the wing, and then he got on his bike, didn't he?
Yeah,
and he sort of picked up the spare ball in the middle, drove down, and you thought...
bury it.
There's no way he's missing this.
No.
And what did he do?
Well, did the keeper make a smart save, or was it a weak finish? I don't know. I mean, it was one of those ones where, when they're bearing down on goal, you think, just bury it anywhere. You just got to hit it on target, haven't you? And just put your, but I think you meant for a more finesse finish.
Yeah.
And, maybe was it a smart save by the goalie? I don't know. But there was parts in that game, in that second half, especially when George came on. I think we got given glimpses of what's to come because there was some seriously smart play going on there.
Yeah.
There was like this one ticky-tacky thing that was going on at one point.
Yeah.
Really quick pass move going on. Oh, it was fantastic.
I think you actually turned to me and went, "What is going on?"
I know. Well, I was even shocked.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, you can see the quality is there. Get a few more games under our belts, and yeah, I can't see us dropping out top 6 this season at all. Yeah, at all.
So, I mean, it's obviously ridiculous looking at the table, but Southend are now in 10th, so it's 3 games, 2 draws, 1 win. And yeah, like we said in the intro, off the mark, which is what it's all about. Also, Gus getting another goal must be commended. I mean,
what a goal as well. Ghosting it to the back post.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw did you see Southend put the goal out on their channels, social media channels.
Yeah.
What a ball in.
Yeah.
A great angle, and you can see it just whipped in over the top, and you're thinking, defender's going to get that. And then it's just kind of, because we said, I don't even think he meant to do that, or he didn't even, hit him and went in. But
yeah, it was a bit
he meant
of a
it. He meant it. He would ghost it in on his head, bang.
Yeah.
Absolute cracking goal. Again, from, I mean, what a return from a right back. It's going to be
incredible.
Mate, it's brilliant.
Top scorer.
Right. Outstanding.
Keep it up, Gus.
Yeah, carry on. Keep calm and carry on.
Gus for the golden boot.
Gustavo Scott Morris.
And I think one thing that I sort of observed, I think you'll recall in the first half, was Hussein was playing slightly differently to what we're used to. I thought there was 2 occasions where he was kind of level up with the strikers, and he was kind of really darting in behind, trying to stretch the back line and kind of create a bit of space. And he nearly got on. I think he got on one of the through balls. He nearly got on another, and it was just quite dangerous. But I thought that was interesting, given all the chat we've had about Wes going and that kind of player that likes to break the lines a little bit more and kind of get in behind, missing from midfield. That Noor looked to be maybe kind of been asked to play that role and been briefed by Kev to kind of stretch them. But it definitely looked like a bit of a tactic in the first half. Didn't notice it too much later on. Not sure if that was kind of deliberate or not, but certainly something to watch. He might be getting a bit more close to the box and getting more touches kind of in the box rather than sitting more deep.
Yeah. And he played it well. He played it very well. I mean, some of the runs were really dynamic, weren't they? We're getting involved, and you can see if it just carries on. It's all coming together quite nicely as we're steamrolling into the games that are coming thick and fast.
Indeed. And one more point of note is Gubbins coming on.
Yes.
And George Wind as well, both coming on around about 91 minutes, I think it was.
Yep.
And what did you think of these guys? George Wind was making his debut from the bench.
Yeah, I mean, we know about Gubbins, with what he's all about. We know he's solid. But George Wind did not look out of place, did he?
No.
He came on, I mean, I know it's 91st minute. There was only a few minutes left, but he was, getting about, with that tiki-taka thing we were talking about earlier on, he got stuck in with that. Didn't look out of place at all. Billy Ricky's former player of the year. And, looks a very, very decent player, I think. Again, moving into full-time football with us. Are they full-time at Billy Ricky? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if they are or not, but he's at Southend now. That's all that matters. But yeah, he's going to get better. What a player we could have on our hands there,
Yeah, he just looks so full of wind.
Energy. Wind, full of wind.
The wind was carrying him. He was just obviously keen to impress, came on, really got stuck in, was smashing into tackles. And it was a few minutes, so he's obviously thinking, all I've got to do is sprint around here for a few minutes.
Look busy.
Make a good impression, but he certainly did that. So
yeah, definitely. He's still a young lad, giving competition to Gus, and we're looking pretty decent there on that right-hand side.
Absolutely. Just before we move on to our next section, where we'll be talking to Pip, aka Diversity, about the Hartlepool game away, just want to give a shout out to, I made a friend, didn't I, last night?
You did indeed, yes.
I did. So I was sat next to a chap called John, a gentleman called John, and he's 85 years old, he told me.
Wow.
But the way I was introduced to him was he was in the row behind us attempting, I think he forgot his age and thought he was 25 because he was attempting the old sort of...
The
jump over between rows at Roots Hall, which could have been fatal. So, I offered him my steady hand to get him in, and he was ever so grateful. He was such a lovely bloke, and he's been going to Roots Hall since 1962.
Top man.
Absolutely. But also kept telling me that he really doesn't understand football, doesn't know anything about football, which I thought was quite funny. Like, what have you been doing since 1962? But yeah, absolutely top guy. So if anyone knows John and is listening, please say hi from me. It was
Hello, John.
Nice to meet you, John. Okay, next section is our chat with Pip, or rather Paul's chat with Pip, who made the trip up to Hartlepool. So let's get Pip's thoughts on that draw now.
Wallop. Hello and welcome back to Shrimperscast. Pip, how has your summer been?
Good afternoon, Paul. It's great to be back on it, and it's great to be talking to all of you lovely listeners all over again. My name is Diversity, and I am that nutter that follows Southend United up and down the country, recording it and posting it on YouTube, because, hey, we've all got to have a hobby. Summer for me was amazing. We got a takeover. Our miracle finally happened off the pitch, and none more so happier, I imagine, was Kevin Mayer and his management team. Finally, a proper season is upon us, and it just made life so much easier away from being a football club.
Yes, it's great to have our football club back, isn't it, mate? But Southend's first away fixture, it was a big old trip up north to Hartlepool on Saturday. So how was your journey?
I kind of liked the fact that we had Hartlepool early doors this season, not in the middle of December or January where it's cold, wet, and it will most likely be cooled off when we're halfway up the M1 or whatever route you would find yourself going to Hartlepool. But I was actually quite optimistic on the day. The traffic getting up there was nice and easy. So on the pitch, I kind of expecting maybe we might get away, or we might sneak a 1-0 win here or a 2-1. I was really optimistic, as were a number of fans I spoke to on game day. But a 0-0 draw away at a tough side like Hartlepool is not a bad result at all. We went there last season, got a 0-0 draw. They came to Rootsall, as we remember, early last season, beat us 3-2. So to take a point of them early doors in the season, and they've just signed experienced striker Gary Medine. You know, it's not a bad result at all, in fairness.
Well, he is a decent player, but a second draw on the bounce, this time 0-0. So talk us through the first half.
Yeah, I think we know how it normally goes with first half in Southend. It's more a feeling out phase. Blues take a while to get into games sometimes, and this was one of those. They just sat back a little bit, wanted to see how Hartlepool would play. Obviously, they have new manager Daryl Saul, who took over in the summer, an experienced National League manager. Kev has faced him many a times versus Woking and Yeovil in previous history, but it was really a tricky first half. Blues didn't have much to work with. Lots of long balls down the channels with Josh Walker, who did superbly with strength, muscle and pace to keep hold the ball and make chances. But overall, Blues went in at half-time the second team in that game.
Yeah, so did Southend look like winning it, or would you say a draw is a fair result?
So, second half begins. We all see how it happens. Red card for the Hartlepool captain. You immediately think, right, boys, let's capitalise, push forward. The first half, we were sat back too much. Now let's go for goal. And it took a while for Blues to get going. I'd say 10 to 15 minutes until Noor Hussein was introduced. And boy, oh boy, did him and Jack Bridge tear apart that left-hand side. The ball went out there every single time. And Noor was beating the player. Jack was beating the man. They were charging at defence, making chances. But it just wouldn't fall our way, kindly enough. Balls in the box, left, right, centre, just missing the post, or the keeper was pulling off a save. It was just, you knew that a goal was coming eventually, but it just slipped away from us.
Yes, mate, a few missed chances there against the 10 men, just falling short. So how do you see Hartlepool doing over the course of the season?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fair to say that Hartlepool are going to be in and around that playoff area this season. Like we've said, an experienced manager at the helm in Daryl Saul, who has management experience in this league, like we said. Kind of similar to Kev Manaway, likes possession football, likes the high press, which we know works really well with Southend. And in this league, we have players on the halfway line trying to win the ball back and push the opposition further and further back. Does work really well if you can nail it down. And I believe Daryl Saul has that with that Hartlepool team. There's a good mix of experience in there. Luke Waterfall obviously got promoted with Grimsby out of the National League. There is winners in that Hartlepool side, and I firmly believe they'll be up there this season and a task for us to face when they come to Rootsall this season.
Yes, mate, I agree. And, if Mancini puts on a performance like he did last time he was at the Hall, getting himself that standing ovation, we are certainly in for a game. So, any Southend players stand out for you?
I think we hit the nail on the head a minute ago. Noor Hussein. Everyone who was at that game will tell you, the minute he came onto that field, the whole complexion of the game changed. Whenever he got the ball, he ran. He dived past players, made charges. He made space for Jack Bridge to charge down that left wing. He always made himself available for the ball, picking out passes left, right and centre. He was the man of the match in that opinion. On his first return to the game, no real proper pre-season for him due to recovering from injury. He came on and looked like he'd been playing all the pre-season and was on fire.
Yes, mate, we all know the quality that Noor has, and hopefully we'll be seeing that more consistently through this season. But, thanks as always, Pip. Speak to you soon.
Paul, it's been a pleasure, as always, to speak to you. And thank you to you lovely lot for listening in to me baffle on. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. My name has been Diversity. Check us out on YouTube, and peace.
Big thanks to our man in the stand, Pip, there for joining us and giving us his thoughts from the Hartlepool game. If you don't follow him already, we do like to give him a little plug, so check him out. He's on YouTube at Diversity, but with a 1 at the start. So D1 Versity. He goes to every game, home and away, and he always does a nice little vlog, so you can always see what's going on and what the atmosphere is like and all that sort of stuff. So great content from Pip. Thanks again, mate. See you soon. And now, Paul, you have arranged a pretty special guest for us, right?
Yes, someone that I've been really desperate to get on, because I think he's a bit of an unsung hero in the takeover process. Because it is our leader of the council, leader of Southend City Council, Cllr Daniel Cowan. I think he inherited a bit of a mess, because he kind of walked into this takeover halfway through from the previous leader of the council and the deal that the Martins had on the table, which he kind of, amended. Can we say ripped up and started again? But, it's great to sit down and chat with him. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. So let's listen to the man himself, Cllr Daniel Cowan. Well, I'm joined now by the leader of Southend City Council, Cllr Daniel Cowan. How are we doing, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Paul. How you doing?
Oh, all the better for seeing you. We finally got on, didn't we? We've had a couple of technical glitches, but we got through it. We're ready to rock and roll. But thank you so much for joining me, because I know you're an incredibly busy man, and we really do appreciate you hopping on for a quick chat today and talk about your experiences of the takeover. So, when you were elected as leader, what kind of thing did you inherit? What did you walk into?
That's a good question, Paul. So, I would say that, well, there's a lot of things that I could say, but it's probably useful to set the scene a little bit. What I inherited, or what I walked into, was a land and property deal that had been agreed between the former leader of the council and the former owners of the football club. It would have seen a huge number of flats built at Fossett's Farm that the council would lease over a number of decades and then rent out. And at that particular time, when I became leader of the council, it was halfway through the second part of a 3-part due diligence process. The first part being what we call the context setting. So it just sets out, is there a gap in the market for this type of development? What it doesn't identify is if people want that kind of development. It just really identifies, do you already have something like this? So, if you wanted to open up something I'm sure a lot of people can identify with. You want to open up a chicken shop on the high street or a mobile phone shop on the high street. Well, everyone's going to go, well, we've got dozens of them already. What's the point? Whereas if you wanted to say open up, a city centre swimming pool or a new bowling alley or something like that, the context would tell you don't already have something like this. So yeah, go ahead and open it. What it can't tell you is if people want to go bowling or go swimming or go to the cinema, you're open or whatever. So it kind of sets the context of what are the gaps in what doesn't exist, but it doesn't tell you whether people want it or not. So that was already in before the local elections. The second part of the due diligence was the financial due diligence, which tells you whether or not this is going to put the council on the hook, or whether the scheme is viable, etc. And that failed within 72 hours of when I became leader of the council. So I would say it's pretty fair to say, to answer your question, that I walked into a bit of a bin fire.
Wow, it sounds it as well. Wow, that's incredible. But so what was the state of Southend United, at the time when you got to the table? What can you tell us on that?
I think it was in a pretty dire state. The situation, I think, for Southend at that particular point was existential. You had a group of people who were funding the club on the basis that this deal was going to go through. It would then enable the previous owner of the club to transfer the ownership and the shares of the football club. And then further down the line, utilise funds from the Fawcett Farm development to reinvest into Roots Hall via COSU. So really, you could say this deal represented everything to the club, to the future of the club. If the deal didn't go ahead, the club wasn't going to exist. It was a very high risk, high reward deal that had been negotiated. But in a sense that the risks were really high for the council and the reward was really great for the previous owners of the football club. Sadly, the risks were so high for the council that it wasn't something that I could take forward. And at that particular time, the options on the table really were bankrupt the council or let Southend United die. Very difficult position to be in. So that's really where we were at.
Wow, incredible. So, how did you resolve that then?
Well, I think when it became clear that the old deal was going to fail, I knew we didn't really have time to restart the process from scratch, and there were just too many red flags to tweak it and tinker around the edges. So for me, the only way to save the club was to effectively buy time to complete a satisfactory deal, and that meant getting at the time the current owners of the club to agree to pivot to a deal that would ultimately be better for the city and had a better chance of passing DD, but that would also mean less profit for them. That was a hard sell. I did my best to kind of keep fans updated throughout the process. I guess I won't go through it blow by blow, but I had to draw lines in the sand, stand my ground, and make it clear that my priority was City first, club second. And I know that will be, really hard for people to hear. It was hard for them to hear it at the time. But that's where my priorities had to be. But I always knew that if I got the right deal for the city, it would benefit the club as well. And the second part of that was really pushing for the decoupling that eventually went through. So we had two groups of people. We've got the consortium who, bless them, had invested a huge amount of money with no guarantees. Continuing to pay off debts, continuing to pay off HMRC summons and all the rest of it, paying the staff on a regular basis, and even there was one particular point where it looked like it was all going to fall flat and it wasn't going to happen. And they still paid the staff the next day. So, these are really, really decent, honourable people who have got the best interest of the club at heart. But having grown close to them over the last 3 months, I also know that, they've got a real affinity for the city as well. And that they were keen for the club to continue to thrive, not just because what it would mean to the city, but they also want to genuinely work in partnership with us. So what we're trying to do is find a way forward to work with them and to kind of give them the assurances that they needed to take the club on before all the deal at Fawcett's Farm was completed, which is a real leap of faith for them, I think, because they'd spent 9 months being given promises by previous people involved in the deal, and ultimately what they were being promised didn't come to fruition. So for them to then trust someone new who's only just come into it was quite difficult for them. But we built a really good relationship quickly. We agreed what we needed to do together in order to make things happen. And then it was my job and the job of, my fantastic council officers to have those negotiations with the Martin family about how we can facilitate a deal, how we can make it work in a way that actually comes off. Because what the due diligence was telling us was that not only was the deal not financially viable for us as a council, but it also wasn't viable for them as a developer. On paper, it made them a lot of money, but only on paper. In the real world, it would have been almost impossible for them to deliver what had been agreed. So there was always going to need to be some kind of change. So there were elements of it which were workable. So we talked about the flag system when I issued one of my first updates. Red flags can't do anything. Amber flags means we can kind of work with this. There are lots of red flags, but there are also a couple of amber. And there was one which was sort of not quite green, but almost there. So what I set out to do is, right, let's take the elements of this that we know could work. Let's use that as a foundation to build something new and to do something different. Is a painful process. It was a difficult negotiation. I had to be prepared to walk away, and there were 3 separate occasions where I was like, right, okay, we're leaving, we're walking away from the table. And because we hadn't physically got out of the building, as it were, like metaphorically speaking, we were sort of enticed back to the table. But certainly good stories for over a pint or something in the Railway or the Blue Boar one day. But for now, there's still a lot of work to do. So it's just to say that it wasn't an easy negotiation for anyone involved, but we got there in the end. And the important thing is that the club survived, got through all of the various grenades that were being thrown at it, including those demands from the league as well, which were complicated matters. But we got through it. The fixtures were released, started the season, got the first 3 points on the board against Boston. So, onwards and upwards.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And, that must have been tough negotiating all of that. And, a huge thanks from us all and our listeners for all your hard work. That must have been tough with, that balancing act, dealing with the Martins. And, of course, the new owners as well have put in millions of pounds to, fund a club they didn't really own.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really difficult. It's really difficult for them because, this all really hinged on something happening at Fossett's, and we've all got competing interests. The consortium, they just don't want to be throwing good money after bad. They want to know that they're going to get control of the club and that their vision for the club is something that they're going to be able to deliver. The Martins had their exit strategy. They wanted to sell the club, but they also want to make sure that they walk away from it with the property deal that they set out to do. And from a council point of view, we need to make sure that, yes, we want the football club to exist because, it's a fantastic asset for our city. It's, the beating heart of the community, and it means so much to so many people. And you can see that by the crowds that are being, drawn. No National League club really comes close in terms of the crowds that are being drawn. So, Southend is, really deserves to be back in the football leagues. But for us, we also have to think about our housing targets, delivering the good quality, secure family homes that people need. We've got a massive waiting list. We've also got to think about balancing the council's finances. And there's just so many different competing interests at play. And just it was a Goldilocks scenario that you've got to find the porridge that is just right. And we managed to do that. But, I guess what we started with was something that was, too hot, too cold, too lumpy. So to get to where we did in the amount of space that we did, I've got nothing but, admiration and respect for everybody who was involved in making that happen. It wasn't just, one person or a couple of people. We're talking dozens of people, council officers, the consortium, the Martin family as well. And they are, I think it's fair to say that, they elicit a certain level of response from Southend United fans. But I can only speak as I find, and I can say that whilst negotiations were hard and they were difficult and, they came to, heated heads sometimes, what I will say is that we couldn't have got to where we got to as quickly as we did if all parties involved weren't willing to make it happen. So, I think everyone, deserves, a little bit of credit for keeping the club going. And as I said, we're now in a better space, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing what a season for Southend United could look like without loads of injury troubles, without transfer embargoes, without, HMRC summons and things hanging over the club, just focusing on what happens on the pitch. Just one season of that, who knows what can happen.
Oh, I know. It's amazing, isn't it? We've actually paid for a player as well. I can't remember the last time we've actually forked out a fee for Josh Walker. Incredible. It's nice to see us signing players. And like you say, looking at what's going on the pitch, I mean, when was the last time we could name 5 subs? It's been
a while.
It has been a while. It has been a very long time. So, but yeah, it's all good stuff. All very positive. Looking forward. I mean, I know it's very sensitive, these kind of issues as well. I know there's a lot you can talk about and you can't talk about. But so do we know who owns what at the minute? Are you able to talk about that? The club? Is it Daggers who own the stadium and the training ground, or is there still work to be done there?
There's still work to be done there. I mean, the consortium own the club. All the player registrations, etc., and all the shares in the club, and the training ground. Roots Hall is still owned by Ron Martin or by the Martin family, but it is on a long lease for a peppercorn sort of type of rent with the consortium, and they have fail safes and agreements in place about the transfer of the ownership. But we're dealing with a really complex land and property deal with lots of different people involved, different funders, different creditors, and the rest of it. And like I said, it's finding that Goldilocks position to make everyone happy. And whilst it's not the perfect outcome, we're really confident that within the next, let's put it in football in terms, within the next couple of seasons, the football club in its entirety, including sort of land holdings, etc., and the stadium, will all be with the consortium. And hopefully by that point, we'll be, up the leagues.
Oh, here's hoping. Yeah, definitely. And well, that would be tremendous, wouldn't it? Imagine just getting back into the Football League as everything gets married back together again. I mean, what a story. What an absolute story.
Well, it almost has the makings of a documentary, doesn't it? So, if FX or Disney are watching or Netflix want to get involved.
That's it. Get Netflix on the phone. Absolutely. Oh, well, brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much, Daniel, for that update. We really do appreciate all the hard work, like yourself and all your officers and everyone at the council have put in, because it is looking good now, isn't it? We are looking forward. And again, just thank you for all your efforts, sir.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We'll catch up with you soon. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
A huge thanks there to Councillor Daniel Cowan for joining me for that chit-chat. And, best of luck, sir, in leading the council for the next few years.
Yeah, big thanks, Councillor Cowan. So please bear with us for a short intermission, a short break, and then we will be back with another double header for Paul's previews.
Huzzah.
And now it's time for everyone's favourite part of Shrimperscast.
Paul's previews.
Paul, the games are really coming thick and fast at the moment. So fresh off the back of a Saturday-Tuesday fixture schedule, we go into another weekend where Southend are playing away on Saturday and then at home on Bank Holiday Monday. I mean, the rest of the league has to do it as well, but that seems remarkably tight.
Bonkers.
In terms of recovery and, injury risk and all that sort of stuff. But it is what it is. So the first game is away at Barnet.
Yep.
What are you thinking?
Well, they're going to be up there this season, I think, fighting for the title, or top 3 at least. And, they've had a great start with 2 wins and a loss. They lost their first game of the season away at Halifax, but they bounced back with 2 wins, with a 2-1 away win at Ebbsfleet and a 1-0 home win against Forest Green Rovers, who got relegated. Although it did need Sean Long being dismissed in the 74th minute and a 93rd minute winner from ex-Blue Boy Zach Brunt. Oh. There we are. But it's going to be a tough match. They're solid at home. Well, since their wobble in the league, right, back in November, they've only lost 2 of their 14 National League games at home. Ooh. And that was a 2-0 defeat, right, at the runaway leader, with the runaway leaders Chesterfield, and their 4-0 drubbing in the playoffs to Solihull. So, you know, and interestingly, though, they have won 10 of them 14 at home. So it's going to be an absolute humdinger. However, Southend also have a superb record on the road since Barnet beat us 1-0 in their backyard back in December. We've only lost one away game in 11 on the road, also to Chesterfield, but we've only won 4, drawing the other 6. But if you look at our results on the whole, right, this is a stato for you. We have only lost one of our last 19 National League games.
That was the last game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, Rochdale. Yeah. And Barnet have lost 6 from their last 19. So it's all to play for in my eyes. Should be an absolute cracker. They've got some ex-Blue boys there as well.
Okay, that's one of your favourite subjects.
Yeah. One of them I quite like is the goalie Nick Hayes. We had him on loan back in the 23-24 season. He played 4 games for us, I think, on loan from Ipswich. Then he went to Solihull last season, where, you know, he had a cracking season, I think, you know, as they went screaming through to the playoff final. I think they got the FA Trophy final as well, did they, if I remember right? But 9 clean sheets in 27 for Solihull. Decent goalkeeper, great signing for them. And they've got Ben Coker there, who we know from our time at Southend. You know, he was there for a long time with us, 2013 to 19. And Zach Brunt, he played 8 games for us, I think, back in 21-22. Wow. So they're the ones, but they've got some players to watch, though. Yeah. They've signed well this season, I think. Yeah. Do you remember the Croatian defender, Nikola Tavares?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was at Dagenham last season. I thought he was immense when Dagenham played us back at the Hall. And... yeah, you know, he's now there at Barnet, great signing. Midfielder Harrison Chapman, they've signed from Bradford City, another good signing. They've got Jermaine Francis, who they signed from Chelmsford, where if my my research serves me well, he scored 10 in 9 games for Chelmsford. But one signing that I'm really trying to keep an eye on there is the former Ipswich Town attacking midfielder Finlay Wilkinson, where he went down to Hitchin, where he scored 16 goals, right, in about 14, 15 games for him. Attacking midfielder. Young lad, looks a right talent. Nice. So he's definitely one to watch. And of course, their main man, Nick Kabamba, last season's top scorer, yet to score. So he's going to be looking for a goal. And obviously, Callum Stead is already banged in 2 this season.
Sounds like a really tricky fixture.
It's going to be a tricky one. Well, I don't know.
Take a draw.
I'll take a draw.
Yeah.
Do you know this one? I'm going to say 1-1.
1-1.
1-1. But, you know, it's going to end up being 4-4 now, I've said that. Yeah. But no, I'm going to go 1-1. 1-1 with us, I think. It'd be... But you never know, we could sneak a game. You know, we always travel well to Barnet. You know, we're going to be buoyed on by another strong support. You know, so I think, anything could happen in that game. Yeah, but if we're going to be challenging at the top, these are the games we've really got to be taking to them. So it's going to be a good test for us, for sure.
Good stuff. And then closely followed by a bank holiday derby at Roots Hall as we welcome Dagenham and Redbridge.
Yeah.
What are you thinking for that?
We're going to smash them. That's what's going to happen. Because they've had a bit of a wobbly start to the season. They've won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. And, looking at their recruitment, it's not as exciting as Barnet. And I'm not really worried about them, to be honest, this season. I think they're going to be one of these mid-table hovering about teams. The only players that I could see is Paul Callambai, who they signed off Wimbledon. One player was like, that's not a bad signing, is the right-back Oscar Rutherford, right? He was at Eastleigh. He's only 20 and he's played well over 75 games. 77 games now in the National League for Eastleigh. Signed for Dagger, yet to play. But, fairly decent right back. But, you know, they've lost a couple of players. Like I just said, Tavares has moved. Josh Rees is the only one for me out of that team who's probably a threat. He hit 15 last season. But am I worried about Dagenham? Not particularly. I mean, we drew 1-1 with them when they came back last time. I think the form that we're in at the minute, if we come away from Barnet with a result going into this Dagenham game, I'm seeing like a good performance here.
Putting daggers to the sword.
Yeah, look at that one.
I think I used that one last season.
You probably did, yeah. Why not rehash it?
Recycle, mate.
No, I think, I can't really see us losing this one. And I think George Moncur, you know, being an Essex boy, playing for Orient, Colchester.
He might get a start, eh? He might
even get a start in this game.
Games,
it might just be prime for him to come on and then, really start running things from the midfield.
Pulling those strings.
Pulling them strings, yeah. But we all would like to see a 4-5-0, wouldn't we? But I don't think it's going to go that way against Dagenham. I think it'll be one of those games. I've got a feeling, right? It's going to be one of those ones where we play really, really well. We hit every post. We miss a penalty, we hit the bar, and we only win 1-0.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those ones.
Yeah, a squeaky 1-0 win.
I think so, it could be, yeah.
Approaching the 90th
But it's a derby in a way.
Yeah.
Well, not really a derby, is it? Because the Dagenham fans like to have a derby because that's all they've got. But, I think we're going to... I think it's going to be a win for us. I can't really see us losing to them at all, really.
Very confident.
Yeah.
So, another 4 points from 6, it sounds like you're hoping for. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're hoping for all 6, but... I think you'd be happy with 4 from 6.
Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, I think that's reasonable considering the depth now we've got in the squad.
Yeah.
As well, before and when we have been playing, we've only had 12, 13 players.
Yeah.
Now, we've got. It was great looking at the Boston team sheet, wasn't it? Look at that full bench, 5 subs, brilliant stuff. And just looking at the way that we're kind of set up now and the energy levels where they are. I think there's no reason why we can't look forward to saying, why not? Well, we'll take it to them. Let's go. Have a good game.
Let's go. So on that note, that brings us to the end of today's podcast. So we want to say a big thank you to Pip, a.k.a. Diversity, for being our man in the stands.
Legend.
And also to Cllr Cowan, Daniel Cowan, for being our special guest and talking us through his take on the takeover over the summer.
Thank you, Squire.
Thank you, Cllr Cowan. And finally, we want to say a massive thanks to everyone of you out there listening. So big thanks. Please remember to share the podcast with your Southend supporting mates. And all that's left to say is, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.